This is a Gear Network production. Coming to you live from Greece, New York, from the Gear Network studios, this is Talking Wrestling. Here is your host, J.C. Money. And we are live here on the Gear Radio Network airwaves. Hello everyone and welcome to Talking Wrestling with J.C. Money, and what a show we have today. We'll talk Extreme Rules, Monday Night Raw the night after, and give a rundown on the weekend coming up locally. There's a big UPW show coming up this Saturday, the 10th Anniversary Anarchy 11, which will feature the likes of Jeff and Karen Jarrett, Marc Hauss, Chip Stetson, Gabe Saint, the McLeods, among many others. In addition, there is a big wrestling seminar with Ring of Honor's Brutal Bob. We'll talk a little bit about that. In addition, our guest this week is former Pier 6 Wrestling Tag Team Champions, one half of the Buffalo Outlaws, Kendall James. He's scheduled to make an appearance on Pier 6 Wrestling Live on June 8th, live from the Italian American Community Center. We'll talk to him a little bit about that later on as well. Before I begin, I must remind everybody again that the entry-level sponsorship deals are very friendly here on the Gear Radio Network, and they will ensure that your product is promoted across all platforms, including Talking Sports with a guy that sounds very similar to me. And any other program that might be coming to the network, your stuff will be on it. Give us a shout on Facebook and we can discuss a package that works for you. Okay, let's begin with the Extreme Rules pay-per-view and a couple of things about it. First of all, as far as the matches are concerned, another slam dunk. I mean, there's a couple exceptions, of course. The Rusev versus R-Truth match and the Divas Championship match I could have personally done without. But aside from that, the card wasn't horrible at all. Even the WLC match was good, and believe me, I was one of those guys that saw that match and thought that on paper it was dumb. But at the end, after some of the falls that were incorporated into the match, I found that I actually enjoyed the match overall, and thought that both Hornswoggle and El Torito did what they were supposed to do, which was entertain. The Intercontinental Championship changed hands to the shock of nobody. You may remember last week on the program that I said that Bad News Barrett would win the Intercontinental Championship and meet Dean Ambrose to unify the United States and Intercontinental titles. Well, 1 out of 2 isn't bad. Ambrose lost the title on Raw to Sheamus in a 20-man over-the-top rope battle royal, last being eliminated by Sheamus. It appears as if the stage is set with a possible Barrett versus Sheamus unification match, should they decide to take that route. Rumors also have a Sheamus heel turn, so that might play into that as well. Evolution and the Shield delivered. By far my favorite match that contained Evolution as a cohesive unit. Each member of the Shield is a main event player of the future. And while Roman Reigns is the clear breakout star of the pack right now, and Dean Ambrose kind of had his shine as the United States champion for X amount of days, Seth Rollins, I believe, is the guy that's going to carry the ball very soon. Bray Wyatt defeated John Cena when a little kid, known as Little Johnny, channeled his best Nails impersonation and sang the whole world in his hands in a deep voice. Great touch to a great story. I dig the Wyatts even more now than I did before, and I'm not being biased because of the Luke Harper thing, but I'm in 100% with the Wyatt family. These guys are tremendous and must-watch appointment television every week. And what's next for John Cena? Well, weigh in on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Gear Network. That's GERE Network. When we come back, we'll talk some future plans within this show, some local talk with the UPW show coming up, and later on, Pier 6 Wrestling's Kendall James. We'll pause for the station identification. This is Talking Wrestling with JC Money here on the Gear Radio Network. A successful product does not become a successful product without proper advertising. If you would like your show advertised here on the Gear Radio Network, rates are very, very low. To start off here, give us a shout on Facebook, facebook.com/Gear Network. Send us a message. We can work out the details. Get your brand promoted here on the Gear Radio Network.
Sports, news, and fun. This is the Gear Radio Network.
Welcome back, everybody, and segment 2 is here of Talking Wrestling. And you know what? It's so nice we have to do it twice. Once again on the phone, our good buddy, Marc Hauss. Mark,
how you doing, JC?
Thanks for being here again. This has become a regular thing. I might have to make you my co-host.
I would love it. We can be Bonnie and Clyde, but you could be Bonnie. I don't want to be Bonnie.
That's okay. I'm down with Bonnie. But all right. So I guess it's a good thing that we got you on the line here. Let's talk UPW this weekend. It's a big show for you. Anniversary Anarchy 11, and it's at the Eagles Club, right? Okay, and it features, I know it features Jeff Jarrett, Karen Jarrett as well. Danny Doring is going to be here. I guess he's taking on Ron Falco in a battle of Hall of Famers. When did I miss something? What's up with Ron Falco in the Hall of Fame? Is he a Hall of Famer now?
I don't know. Self-proclaimed in his own mind. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, he's not in the Rochester Hall of Fame. He's not in the WWE Hall of Fame. He's not even the TNA Hall of Fame. I know that.
TNA has a Hall of Fame?
They do. It's not really much of anything.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, he's a Falco, if you're listening, you're a Hall of Famer in my heart. Anyways, we got the Brutal Bob seminar here. Now, I'm very intrigued by this because I'm familiar with ROH, obviously, though I'm not too familiar with Brutal Bob, and maybe I should. Maybe it's just the parent.
You should be.
Maybe it's maybe it's the parent. Maybe it's just the parent in me. You know, I'm stuck watching Frozen nonstop lately, so my mind's a little gone there. Why don't you give us, for those of us that may not know Brutal Bob, give us a brief history on him. How did you meet him?
I met him through the Ring of Honor camps. I actually saw him, and he's one of the most deceiving. Like, not deceiving, but, like, he doesn't look like a wrestler whatsoever. He is just bald, he's a little older, he's just a goofy guy, and you don't think he's a wrestler. And then when he gets in the ring and you watch him work, he can out-talk and outwork anybody I know. He is the most charismatic, entertaining person ever, and I met him through the Ring of Honor camp. I've talked a lot, I've learned a lot from him. I mean, he's been around, he basically built the New England area. And,
okay, I know who he is now.
Yeah,
yes.
He's been around forever. He was the guy who had he was the red-haired guy that was all in Hampton back in, like, 92 and whatnot, doing stuff for, like Adam Bomb,
yes,
guys like that.
Yes, like, he's old. He's old school. I remember him now.
Oh yeah, he's been around forever. He knows so much. He did a seminar a little while back when I had him come in and help out with Pier 6. Sold out seminar, 25 kids. They all learned something. They all had a great time. It was one of the best seminars that this area has had in a long time. And I was able to talk to him again, talk to my good friend, Mr. Brutal Bob, and have him come back. And he is so glad to be back, and he likes the area, and he's going to do good things. And, man, yeah, it'll be good.
Oh, that's cool. Now, where is the seminar taking place?
It's taking place at the Eagles Club from from noon until 3 o'clock. It's going to be going on. So if anybody's interested, it's $30 for the session. You'll be getting a lot of ring time, and you'll be able to learn a lot from a man who's been around the block and currently has a lot of I don't know if I'd say influence, but he has a lot of say, and he knows a lot of people in a lot of areas. Gets you places if you catch his eye. All
right, now will Brutal Bob be wrestling on the show?
As far as I know, he will be wrestling.
All right. So we get a chance to see Brutal Bob in action as well.
Oh, yes, sir.
All right. Well, you know what? Maybe I might have to get you on the horn for segment 2 again next week, so you can kind of give us a brief rundown as to how it went. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll have your people call my people. We'll go from there.
Yeah. We got to strike up the right deal, right?
That's right. Something like that. You know, there's no money to be made in the indies, so.
I beg to differ.
Yeah? No, I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding.
If you work hard enough and you don't sell yourself short like a lot of people do nowadays, you'll make some money.
Yeah, you can. You definitely can. All right, Mark. Well, I appreciate the Vine again. You're always welcome, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much.
All right. Marc Hauss, everybody, with a surprise phone call. But yes, Brutal Bob seminar is this weekend at the former NWA Upstate show, rather, the UPW show, Anniversary Anarchy 11. You know, I was at the first Anniversary Anarchy. That was a long time ago. You see, back when the UPW was known as NWA New York. Actually, before that, they were NWA Upstate. Then before that, they were RPW. Either way, believe it or not, here's a little known history for you. I was the first match in that company's history. Myself and Dickie Sanchez in a light heavyweight championship tournament. I have the footage somewhere. It's god awful now by today's standards, but it was pretty awesome. And to see how far that company has come along, and the fact that some of the people on the roster still consider me a UPW original, that is something that I take with pride, and I appreciate all that. So. Thank you, Mark, for your call-in, and now, you know, hey, we might have to get him, like I said, we might have to get him on here all the time. He's a good guy. We like Mark. You know who else we like? Kendall James, the Buffalo Outlaw. He's next on Talking Wrestling, here on the Gear Radio Network.
You're listening to Talking Wrestling and the Gear Radio Network. Good night now!
Welcome back, everybody, to Talking Wrestling with JC Money, and segment 3 here is brought to you in part and in good faith by Broken Road Entertainment's Pier 6 Wrestling Live event that is happening on Sunday, June 8th at 4 o'clock p.m. from the Italian American Community Center on Frank Domino Way in Gates. Tickets are $15 for general admission. Front row is $20. Kids 12 and under get in for $10. Scheduled to appear Pier 6 Wrestling Heavyweight Champion Super Beast with his manager Rob Sanderson, the Tag Team Champions Punisher Van Slyke and Kevin the Man Graham, Television Champion Jordan Lennox, Young Guns Champion Joe O'Connor, Jay Freddy, David Fenway, and many, many more. You can visit Pier 6 Wrestling on Twitter, which is at Pier 6 Wrestling, and you can watch Pier 6 Wrestling Saturday Night Shakedown on the CW Rochester 16 every Saturday night / early Sunday morning at 1 o'clock a.m. While we're waiting for Pier 6 Wrestling star Kendall James, who will be on the show today, I would like to go ahead and just take an opportunity to talk about the future plans. Gear Radio Network is starting to make some headway here. We've got a lot of people that are interested in contributing. Marc Hauss, for example, calling randomly part 2 there, segment 2, talking about the UPW show and the training seminar that's going to be happening with Brutal Bob. So, I mean, and I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people are very, very interested in contributing. So I've decided that there's going to be, especially close to show times for certain shows. Let's put it like this. You know, the UPWs and the Pier 6 Wrestlings, I have no problem doing. But I will have some on-site correspondents that have volunteered to help and to report from the arena, as well as maybe even hosting a podcast or two from a show in the future. But I mean, even more than that, we're looking at expanding the audience, not just for Talking Wrestling, but for the Gear Radio Network in general. So the Talking Sports blurbs that happen might end up getting worked into the commercial some way, shape, or form, as well as we try and brand the Gear Radio Network, try and brand Talking Wrestling, try to brand all of our programming here that we are going to eventually bring to you. We're looking to get on iHeartRadio Talk as well, which will reach a broader audience. But I mean, on top of that, you know, Spreaker is good for what it is right now, and we are starting, but I have big plans. We have big plans here at the Gear Radio Network to really give this a good go and really give this a good push. And ultimately, we'll be looking to host all of the various Gear Network programming on our own Gear Network website, our own platform, which will happen eventually. That is something that is in the works. Again, it's baby steps. You know, getting this far right now has been a blast. It's come rather quickly. And your support, everybody's support, has been greatly appreciated. But yes, definitely some changes coming abroad. It's all good. We are in a great direction, and I can't wait to watch it grow. And hopefully you all come along for the ride. Because again, without anybody listening, without anybody really giving a crap as to what's going on, you know, what are we doing this for? So thank you again to everybody for your support. And ladies and gentlemen, I just actually got word now from Kendall James that there is a scheduling conflict. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to make the appearance this week. Never fear, we will have him on next week. He has agreed to come on. He does send his apologies to the people that were waiting to listen to him. We're going to pause for a quick station identification, but I do have another caller on the line. We'll get to him. We'll talk some local wrestling, among other things in the world of professional wrestling. Probably not sports. I don't think this guy's very well-versed in sports, but maybe I might throw a sports blurb or two at him. We'll see. This is Talking Wrestling with JC Money here on the Gear Radio Network.
Sports, news, and fun. This is the Gear Radio Network.
Hello, everybody. This is JC Money for the Gear Radio Network. And hey, you busy on Thursdays? Well, if you're not, give us a listen. Talking Wrestling airs every Thursday here on the Gear Radio Network. Welcome back, everybody, to Talking Wrestling with JC Money here. My guest today, unfortunately, like I said, Kendall James had a prior commitment and scheduling conflict. Wasn't able to make it, but found somebody that could. Ladies and gentlemen, the person that I have on the line needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyways. He is my too sick of a partner in Team FU, my cousin. Ladies and gentlemen, Tyger Smith. Tyger, welcome to Talking Wrestling.
Hey, what's going on? on, man?
Hey.
Let me just quote. Hold on. I have a quote for you.
Oh, boy.
Because I've just listened to the whole thing about Kendall James. The guy here is a really good guy, but I've never actually had the pleasure to meet him. And I heard about your predicament, and I was glad that you got a hold of me. But to quote the great Rob Van Dam, I'm nobody's second choice, buddy. I should even strapped on my boots. That's very legal, the first one. I got it.
All right. Well, if it's any consolation to you, you're actually not the second. You're the third. Marc Hauss called in segment 2, but you'll hear that once it's released. Yep. Surprise. At any event, all right. So, Tyger, to the maybe 2 or 3 people that might not know who you are, that are listening to this podcast, obviously everybody who is likely listening to me and listening to the Gear Radio Network knows who you and who TNX Bomb Squad is. But for those that do not, can you give a quick rundown as to how you began in professional wrestling, what inspired you, your first baby steps in wrestling? How did you get started?
Okay, honestly, it all began in high school wrestling, actually. For Benjamin Franklin High School in Rochester, New York, I was an amateur wrestler, and my coach did something that normal coaches would not do. He said that if you work really hard and you actually do something in the amateur world, you might be able to go pro someday. And he was talking about professional wrestling, which, me personally, thinking back now, what that did for me as how I looked at the business, it totally helped shape, the route I was going to end up going. So that, you think about an actual collegiate sports coach gave professional wrestling that much respect. That's what really started pushing me in that direction. After that, I went to my first house show, which was actually it wasn't even a house show. Let me backtrack a little bit. No, it was a house show. It was for ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. It was myself and Mr. Perez went there in 1998 when they came to the Rochester Convention Center. I was pretty much hooked, and I saw that there was a local wrestler by the name of Bad Boy Barry Hardy that was on the show, and I heard that he had a school. And I decided I wanted to go there, and I talked to him, and that Monday after the show, I was there. I was at his school, House Pain or whatever you called it.
Is that the infamous Crack House Wrestling?
Yes, it's the infamous Crack House Wrestling.
Okay.
Hellcat talked about on the Take It Deep podcast, and all these other people have made references to. And I met there Hellcat, Dusty Taker, who else?
Loke?
There were so many. Uncle Chris, the Canadian thriller.
You met Loke there, didn't you?
No, I did not meet Loke there. I did not meet Loke for a little. Let me get to that. All right, so I'm there for a week. I was taking my bumps back in 1998. Okay, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world until the head trainer decided to disappear with the money and didn't tell any of us. And if you heard who I said at the beginning of this podcast, I'm not saying his name again, but yeah, that was the guy who took my money and ran.
It wasn't Kendall James, because he said Kendall James' name too. Kendall James.
No, it wasn't Kendall James. Sorry, I don't even know who that kid is yet. But I heard he's a nice guy.
He's a very nice guy.
I don't know yet. I haven't met him. It was very hardy. He did it. Yeah, you guess he was going through demons or whatever they call it. He was going through a time, and you left me, Hellcat, and Canadian Thriller, and Jason Atlas, and Dusty Taker, and all these guys are at his school, religiously, gone. He left us. And I'll never forget it, because that's really what left a lasting impression, not just of him, but of Hellcat and Canadian Thriller, because when everyone else stopped showing up while we waited for Barry Hardy every day, for like a straight week, we waited for him. It was me, Hellcat, and Thriller. Until it was just me and Thriller. And then it was just me. And then I thought my dream of wrestling was done. Just like that. A couple months later, I bumped into Dusty Taker. And we went to a show by a guy by the name of Iron Mike Todd Costner. And he had a show. I think it was with, I don't know if it was just his fed or the USWA. But it was out in Canandaigua. And there I would see Superfly Jim Snuka, a guy who was imitating the Iron Sheik. This guy was huge guy. He looked like the Iron Sheik did back in the 80s, but it wasn't obviously the Sheik. It was somebody imitating him, but if you didn't know better, you would say that was the Sheik. And I would bump into a kid that I saw, a younger man, who was on the show that was doing things that was very
innovative that I had never seen anybody do, and I thought was amazing. Even though he was a heel, you know, you're not supposed to, you know, heels aren't supposed to like you or whatever. You're not supposed to like the heels. This guy stood out to me as somebody who I thought was an amazing talent. That I had to tell him this at the after party, and it turned out to be H.C. Loke. So that's when I first met Loke, was in 1998, and it was a very that show helped rekindle and keep the whole fires about wanting to be a wrestler alive, honestly. So I really thank Dusty Taker, if he happens to listen to this, you know, for doing that for me and getting me out to that indie show. Because if he wouldn't have done that, who knows what would have happened, you know?
And that's, you know, it's listening to that. That's a flashback. Obviously, I was there for that, not with you as you were taking the journey in '98. But you would call me, I remember, and you'd be telling me all about this, and there's another world of professional wrestling, and it's easy to well, not easy physically or anything, but you know, it's accessible. And I was kind of like, you know, back then I was skinny as hell and everything. But this takes us actually to fast forward to January of 2000.
Okay, January 2000. I remember it being you and myself walking through, I think it was either Grease Ridge or Marketplace Mall, and we bumped into Hellcat and Canadian Thriller. And Thriller was very approachable, very happy, and he said, hey, you know, you should come to a show. We got a show, you know, coming up. And I was like, oh, yeah. Hellcat wasn't so approachable at that moment. He seemed very, you know, I don't know if he was irritated or what that Thriller stopped, but they invited us to the show. We ended up going, and we saw so many different casts of characters. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, I went into full detail if you happen to pick up the Take a Deep podcast, Criminal Classics. I go into a whole detail about this entire situation. You know, you see your Chip Stetsons, your Hellcats, your Barry Hardy again, which I was like, oh, God.
I remember that. He walked out, and you just rolled your eyes.
I was so pissed. You know, Diablo Santiago, Kenny Casanova. I mean, honestly, all of those characters, if you were to say any of their names now, they're iconic, you know, in Western New York wrestling. To us, it was just like, we don't know who these guys are, but they're awesome.
It's crazy when you think about it. When you think about it now, you say these names, and it's like, you know, these were the guys that we, you know, looked up to when we came in. There's a whole new generation now that a lot of them don't know this. They don't know who these guys are. I can go up to one of these students and be like, hey, do you know offhand what the main event of the NMW show at the Ukrainian club January 2000 was? They'd be like, huh? And then if you told them who it was, on the spot, who was it? Do you remember?
Oh, the main event of the Ukrainian club?
Yeah, the first show.
Oh my God, wasn't it? It wasn't Barry Hardy versus Killer Kowalski Jr., was it?
Nope, that was the second one.
That was the second show. Okay, it was, dude, I don't remember.
It was Reckless Youth versus Dirty Don Montoya.
Oh my God.
Accompanied to the ring by one Beth Phoenix.
Yeah, good old Beth.
You remember that?
Yeah, that was a well, I remember that, but I remember the second time that they showed up because that was an infamous thing, if you remember what happened there.
Oh, I might. Okay. I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
I don't know if you want to cut this one out, but I'll give it to you anyway. You can decide if you want to. No, you know what? Never mind.
Radio friend, let's save that for the eventual bonus show when we start getting into those. We have to pay people for that stuff. Or, well, people pay us, not we pay. Anyways, moving on, you've been rather instrumental in the art form of professional wrestling, keeping it alive more or less. See, like your focus for a very, very long period of time was to not let it die, so to speak, not necessarily let the teachings that H.C. Loke taught you die as the you know, the gears were turning, as the times were turning, so to speak, in this area. And you ultimately found yourself in various training roles. And when we have a little more time, we can kind of deep dive into the RCW, things like that. But tell us how you wound up becoming the head trainer of Next Era Wrestling, a position you held essentially for about a good 3/4 of the company's history.
Longer than that, but, well, honestly, again, this is something else that we had touched on previous podcasts. I mean, Scotty Bender, who was a booker for New Millennium Christian Fed that was starting out in North Greece by a character by the name of Johnny Swift. Now, Swift was a joke, you know, in most circles, if not all circles of professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a joke, you know? And so much of a joke that he had started a company because he couldn't get a spot at the NMW's company that we worked at, that he started his own company. And then eventually the people that he started it with would find a way to usurp him and just take the whole thing from him. Which, you think about that. I mean, you start a company that's your company, and guys that you allow in, would you allow them to take it over and then walk away? He walked away willingly almost. You know, like, I don't know if it was to avoid aggravation, but he walked away. That was the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And basically started from scratch again. You know, and when I walked in there, because, like I said, Gunner told me about it, and, you know, it was a joke, you know, like, he's starting up what Christian said, blah, 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 you know, the whole joke was, I'll go down there and I'll become heavyweight champion, you know? So, I went down there, it was just him and another guy, doing some chain. I asked him if I could work out, he seemed eager that I was there, you know, whatever. It was just a little weird because I was respected because I was actually a trained wrestler, but not respected by the bigger names because, you know, of my personality and some of the choices I've made, which, you know what, we all have growing pains, we all do things a little bit differently, you know?
Absolutely.
And, you know, so it was weird. So I got in there, I worked out with them for, you know, a little while, and in all honesty, I was approached by him and his father in a bar that was right next to the building, and they asked me if I would be interested in doing the training. And I told them straight up, I said, I will be your trainer, but you got to do it my way. I was very adamant about that because I was trained by Loke in a certain way, and we had a cascade of different trainers that came through. And you know what? Different trainers, different flavors, it all adds to the product, it all adds to the craft, correct?
Correct.
But people's intensity and people's willingness to focus your craft. Yeah, somebody can show you how to do the cool, you know, roll up out of the corner, you know? Somebody can show you how to do that cool Booker T roll up out of the corner. And that's cool, but who's going to teach you why you should do it and why did it need to happen? That's what was being lost. And that's what I noticed when we had the cascade of 1,000 different trainers at NMW.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came into RCW, I was training everybody, and then they decided to get rid of me because I was friends with some of the wrestlers, and you know you should be at arm's length and blah blah blah. And then they all started doing their own thing, writing script, you know, practicing things they saw in video games, you know, stupid shit. And it's sorry, man.
That's all right. F7 works fine.
That's how it works. You know, that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was so adamant about if I'm going to train, I'm going to train it my way.
All right.
And the way I trained it was very, the only way I can think of saying to properly illustrate how I train these guys was very Spartan. We went in there, I had my drills we did that I demanded you to perfection. You know, that was the mantra of the whole school was perfecting the craft. Mm-hmm. Which, in all reality, if you know anything about professional wrestling, it is an always evolving thing. It never stays stagnant. It's never the same. You know, wrestling will be one way this week, next week it could be completely different because that is the nature of the beast. It's a living entity. It's always evolving. Mm-hmm. So therefore, trying to perfect the craft, by this definition, is insanity. You can't perfect it because it's constantly changing. So that means you got to constantly change with it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I was trying to instill in all my guys. And all my core guys, I'll say it right now, I'll put my name out there. All of my core guys from the Den have all been mainstays in Western New York and all have been influential in so many people's locker rooms as being top guys because they all kept those basic ideas in the back of their head and always used them.
All right.
And
Tyger Smith joining us here on... I'm sorry. Go on.
No, I'm just saying, you know, it's something that I really was very... you needed to have, and we did it. And it's like, I do training camps up at OSPW, you know, and when I train, it's funny because they'll advertise it. You know, they advertise it, Tiger's done training, you know, and it's funny because I noticed it one day, I didn't even realize they were doing it. You know, I didn't realize they were advertising me, and those days that they advertise me, I get a lot more people. Like, I got people that come in just to train with me. I mean, you may or may not, you know, feel how you do about Cryptic. I give that kid respect for one reason. He decided he wanted to be a wrestler. He moved up here from Horseheads, New York, which is like 2 hours away, with two others remote, but he moved up here because he wanted to go to my school. You know what I'm saying? If that doesn't say something,
hey,
I don't know what does.
You know what? I've never questioned his drive. I've questioned his attitude, and I've questioned some of his choices, especially recently. But I've never once questioned his drive. Tyger Smith joins us here on Talking Wrestling with JC Money. Hey, we've got a few minutes left, so we're gonna have to take it home pretty soon. But let's touch up on OSPW a little bit. You are a mainstay there. You are essentially their the leader there, if you will. I'm gone.
I am, how do I say this correctly? I am definitely somebody who was never supposed to be there. Like, in all honesty, when I came in, when all the old NEW guys came in there, it was another booking. It was a chance to work out of town, you know, and that was something we all craved because it was a different audience. The pressures weren't there. You need to go sell tickets, or you're going to be in front of your family, which ironically, everybody wants to be able to wrestle in front of their family, supposedly. But when you aren't wrestling in front of your friends and family, when you're wrestling against, you know, in front of wrestling fans that don't know you, and they start going crazy for you, completely different feeling.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It becomes intoxicating, you know? And the quote, the great Roddy Piper, it's one of the best drugs you will ever get addicted to and can never put down. And that's the truth, man. And honestly, I wasn't supposed to be there for more than, you know, a couple matches, and then all of a sudden I became a normal mid-carder, and then the famous Western New York War happened, and it took me from the mid-card straight into the main event, and for me it was such a big deal because it meant that I could go into another town and be a main event player where I couldn't even do that at RCW when I was in roster, which blew my mind.
Right.
But somebody else, you know, another company trusted me enough with anything, you know, just with the main everything, that I could be in the main event.
All right. And speaking of being in the main event, you more recently interjected yourself again into the main event picture, so to speak. You won the tag team championships with your old rival Deacon. What the hell, dude? I mean, what happened there? Were you that desperate to gain 10 pounds of weight?
Honestly, what ended up happening there was I had, ironically, it was because of a podcast you and I did, recounting some of our stories, you know, becoming Team SU and all that. Mm-hmm. I was going over the whole reason why I was fired originally from OSPW a couple years ago. I was fired for a year, and nobody thought I was coming back, and then, I was able to mend fences and create one of the greatest comebacks of all time, I'll say, in this area, you know. I mean, who can threaten the father of the owner, tell him that you're going to kill him live in front of an audience? Yeah, it's not scripted. It's for real. You know, like, I was hot, you know, and come back and become their world champion 3 times. That is what you call Tyger Smith in a situation.
Oh, there we go. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
When I say it actually means big things are happening. Anyway.
All right, you got about 30 seconds to tell that story there.
Okay, well, bottom line is I was not put on the card, and somebody was not able to make it, and I was kind of a last second hit my music go, and they were not thrilled, and let's just say that the win was something that, you know, it's usually a parade for Deacon, and I kind of stole the win, took the belt, and literally, you know, most companies say, hey, hand the belt in at the end of the night. The belt is on my mantle in Rochester, New York.
Oh, nice. All right, very good. Now going ahead, taking it home here, Tyger. Where can the people see you? When is the next Tyger Smith appearance?
Oh my God, what is this? May?
We're in May.
Okay, May 30th. I will be in Niagara Falls for Busted Knuckles Wrestling. They're doing a fair show. That's a Friday night. I'll be there. May 31st, I will be in Plymouth, Pennsylvania for Orange K. The week after that, I will be in OSPW on the 7th of June, defending my tag titles. After that, I will be back in Plymouth for PWA, Poconos World Wrestling Alliance. If you want to keep up with Tyger Smith, you need to download the Tyger Smith app. There is a link on my Facebook, on pretty much all my social media.
I'll go on there and I'll snag all your links and everything and attach them to the Gear Network Facebook page as well, so people can find all of the Tyger Smith various 7 million social networking platforms on Gear Radio Network's Facebook page. Hey, it works. I'd go for it. If you can find 7 million in one, find 7 million in one.
I'm going to tell you right now, out of everybody anybody in Western New York, I don't think anybody markets the way I do, and that's the reason why I've had the staying power, because I got smart about my business.
That's what you need to do. All right, Tyger, appreciate the last second call. Thanks for joining us here on Talking Wrestling.
Hey, bro, we're tag partners, man. I always got your back. You know that.
All right, appreciate it. We'll talk again soon.
So, do me a favor. I know you're cutting me off. Do me a favor and plug that simulcast, because that thing's going to be huge.
Yes, indeed. Simulcast this month. The very first ever edition of Team FU podcast, which is a simulcast of both the Take It Deep Network and the Gear Radio Network, and, if I may say, the first episode on iHeartRadio Talk. Hooray!
Yeah. Just recently, the Team FU podcast channel on the Take It Deep Network became live on, on iHeartRadio. So if you want to check us out, put in Team FU, and you can check us out on iHeartRadio. It's the whole catalog of everything that's on that playlist. And
it plays continuously, folks. So, Tyger, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Tyger Smith, everybody. Coming through in the clutch, at the last split second. But yeah, I mean, a lot of history there. I could probably talk to him for a couple hours, and if you couldn't talk to him for a couple hours, he can definitely talk to you for a couple hours. So, thanks again, Tyger, and I appreciate the vine. Maestro, cue the music. There it is. You know what it is. Folks, thank you very much for tuning in this week here on the Gear Radio Network to Talking Wrestling with JC Money. It was fun, always a blast. Next week, we'll try and get Kendall James again. He is a legitimate good guy, and he is legitimately sorry. Family comes first. I understand that. It is most important, and, if anybody is upset by that, then, go somewhere with that, because family is important. So we'll try and get Kendall James on again next week. We do have confirmed Mr. One Night Stand Steve Cruz will be our segment 3 guest next week. A lot of history there with him as well. Coming off of a recent surgery, we'll talk to him about that. We'll talk to him about his time in 2CW. Everywhere. I mean, the dude's, he's one of the best. I love the guy. And I'm stoked to have him on the podcast. So, until next week, once again, let's go ahead and get the specifics out of the way here. This is a copyrighted podcast of the Gear Radio Networks, and any broadcast or reproduction without the express written permission of the Gear Radio Networks, or me specifically, is strictly prohibited. Thanks again, Marc Hauss. Thank you, Tyger Smith. Thank you, listeners. This is JC Money saying so long for now. See you next week. Good night now.